The first volume of Stranger Things Season 5 has opened up a massive rabbit hole, and we're really excited to dive into it. So far, the latest banger has created no dearth of unnerving mysteries that are pretty much begging to be answered, but the Duffer brothers are quite the tease. Amidst all of that, however, there's the case of one strange, desolate cave inside Vecna's mindscape, which we might have some valid theories about. 3 years ago, we saw Elle absolutely demolish Vecna in Season 4, but as it turns out, the big bad from the Upside Down has returned, stronger than ever. However, we barely see his burned form until the very end because the first 2 episodes mostly follow his human form as Mr. Whatsit. We also spend quite a bit of time in Henry's mindscape, and that's where we're finally reintroduced to Max, who unknowingly drops a huge hint about how Vecna the Bad can be destroyed. Max's fate in Season 5 probably should be our biggest focal point, especially after what happened to her at the end of Season 4, which for us was one of the most emotionally devastating sequences. She was introduced as one of the strongest characters in the show, but Billy's tragic death had taken a toll on her mental health, which is how Vecna got to her, and finally, she ended up in a coma. Now that we've finally seen her inside Vecna's head, Max is actually hiding inside a cave. But why is Vecna so afraid to go inside that cave? Without wasting another moment, let's get right into it.
I asked you to wait.
What happened to Max after she seemingly died in Stranger Things Season 4? So by the end of Episode 3, Season 5, we finally learn who's been watching Holly in the Creel house, and it turns out to have been Max, but not Max in the real world. This version of Max sits Holly down and explains the truth about how she did die when Vecna attacked her, but instead of fading away, she felt something pulling her in another direction as she heard a voice calling out to her. Next thing she knew, Max found herself back in the Rainbow Room in the aftermath of Henry's massacre. From there, Max basically became trapped inside Vecna's mindscape, which is a twisted maze made of memories that constantly shift and loop. Every time she thought she had reached a dead end, the world morphed again, and just when she was about to give up, Max suddenly heard Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill playing. Meanwhile, back in Hawkins, where Max was still in a coma for over 18 months, Lucas kept visiting the hospital and hadn't stopped holding on to hope. He visited her consistently and kept playing the song, hoping it might reach her somehow. But so far, Max hadn't shown any sign that she could hear him, at least not in the real world. Physically, Max did look a little bit better than the last time we saw her. Her bones have healed, her casts are gone, and she's no longer wearing the neck brace, so if she ever woke up, she might not be stuck in a bed the way she was before. However, the big unknown is her eyesight, because Vecna's attack left her seemingly blind, and there's been no clear answer yet on whether that would change if she finally came back. Now, on another note, Lucas has no idea, but even though she was in a coma, Max could hear the song from inside the mindscape because Lucas was playing it for her comatose body. This basically means that her body was alive, but her mind, or at least her consciousness, was stuck inside Vecna's mindscape. As she jumped from one memory to another, Max ended up reliving the night Vecna killed her and stumbled on what looked like a glowing doorway. Turns out this was a portal leading straight to her hospital room, and as she started running towards that portal, where she saw Lucas sitting beside her in the hospital and holding her hand, Max almost made it through, but then the song stopped abruptly, and as a result, the portal snapped shut. And to make matters worse, Vecna realized she was trying to escape his mind, which is essentially a prison for his victims.
When he attacks, our friend described it as a trance.
How is Max hiding inside Vecna's mind? So, as you know, we see Vecna mostly in his human form in Season 5, then as the charred-looking monster that Eleven turned him into at the end of last season. Well, that's because he spends the majority of his time as Holly's imaginary friend, Mr. Whatsit. As part of his master plan to kidnap 12 children to reinforce his world domination plans, Vecna manipulates Holly by promising that he would save her from the monsters in order to gain her trust. Then, he has her kidnapped by a Demogorgon, taken to the Upside Down, and hooked up to one of his disgusting feeding tubes. Now, while Holly's body remains unconscious in the Upside Down, her subconscious is seen wandering around Henry's mindscape, living inside a perfect version of his house from the 50s, as she is totally unaware of what's actually happening to her. When Vecna leaves her inside the Creel house to get the other 11 kids, he specifically warns her to steer clear of the woods because that's where the monsters live. But after he's gone, Holly receives a letter and a map from Henry asking her to meet up at the spot marked X. As she follows the map through the woods, she ends up finding Max instead, who's been hiding out in Henry's mind. Max told Holly all about Vecna and explained how she was locked in his memories now. That's when we learn how Vecna was chasing after Max when he realized she was trying to escape. He was chasing her through his memories until she reached a cave that he seemed terrified of and simply refused to step foot in, leading her to build a home for herself there as if it was the only place she was safe to hide. We don't think we've ever seen Vecna that scared before because in that scene, when Max runs into the cave, he just stands there looking absolutely petrified. Ever since, Max has given up on finding a way to escape, but Holly's arrival has spurred her to create a new plan. For now, she needed Holly to return to Vecna's house to bide her time and convince him that nothing was out of the ordinary. Why was Vecna so scared of the cave? So, unless you've seen the West End and the Broadway play of Stranger Things: The First Shadow, you might be wondering in the dark, just like Max was, about this mysterious cave. Set in 1959, the Broadway show is essentially Henry Creel's origin story, which takes us back to when the Creels first moved to Hawkins, where Henry began committing his horrendous crimes that led him to Dr. Martin Brenner. If you recall, Stranger Things Season 4 led us to believe that Henry Creel was always a troubled and disturbed child who was born with psychic powers. However, this was far from the truth. Furthermore, the Netflix series suggested that the first time he ever traveled to the Upside Down was as an adult when Eleven used her powers to imprison him there after she temporarily opened a gate to banish him. But this was also a misdirection to keep us from figuring out the truth. Now, if you've seen the stage play, Stranger Things: The First Shadow, it starts in 1943 when the United States was holding secret experiments involving the USS Eldridge, hoping to use a force field to turn the ship invisible and make it undetectable to the Germans. However, the ship was instead transported to Dimension X, where most of the crew were killed by strange humanoid creatures. In this crew, Captain Brenner, who was Dr. Brenner's father, was the only one to make it out of this strange realm alive and was able to return to the real world after the altercation. Apparently, he was badly injured, had a strange, unidentifiable blood type, and soon after met his demise. But not before telling his son about this mysterious new place called Dimension X. From that very moment, it became Martin Brenner's personal mission to go back to that strange place, which was directly responsible for the death of his father, to uncover what really happened. Martin almost succeeded too, as he founded the Nevada Experiments, and his team created all the necessary equipment to open a gate to Dimension X once more. Sadly, one of his men turned out to be an undercover Soviet spy who ended up stealing the equipment before it could be activated and then hid it inside a cave near the laboratory in Nevada. Now, during this time, the Creel family, including an 8-year-old Henry, lived in the small town of Rachel, which wasn't very far from those caves. One day, while Henry was exploring and playing with a spyglass, he accidentally went inside the cave near the military base. He was eventually found 12 hours later outside the cave without having any memory of what exactly happened to him. However, later on, it's revealed that while Henry was missing, a Russian spy was found dead in the same cave system, suggesting that he had come to the US through the Upside Down. Henry basically found the stolen device hidden inside this cave, and he accidentally activated the equipment, which ended up zapping him into Dimension X for the first time in his life. After he was pulled into this horrifying dimension, he came face to face with the shadowy entity that has been haunting him ever since. So it was indeed the Mind Flayer that had corrupted him and potentially gave him psychic powers. Even though he returned home about 12 hours later, Henry was never the same again. Shockingly, his blood type had also changed, and so had his personality, making him a completely different person. Although it's never been confirmed, Henry could have ventured into the Upside Down, and that is when he probably made first contact with the Mind Flayer. But if the cave actually leads to the Upside Down, why was Henry so scared of it in the Netflix show? Well, the cave we see in Season 5 could be the same cave we see in the Broadway show, meaning in his mindscape, this was the cave that started it all. Moreover, Brenner eventually tracked him down after finding Henry's spyglass that he dropped in those Nevada caves, and we know the kind of hell he was put through because Brenner trapped him for years and used his blood to experiment on other kids. Plus, Stranger Things: The First Shadow also revealed that the Mind Flayer is the true big bad of the story. Henry Creel has simply been doing the creature's bidding, and it also implied that, as Vecna, he's simply the Mind Flayer's 5-star general. That's probably why, during a promo event, Noah Schnapp, who plays Will Byers, revealed that Vecna is low-key the most misunderstood villain of the series, which indirectly means that he's simply under the Mind Flayer's control. Like we said, the cave that Henry Creel sees in his memories, and where Max Mayfield lives, is the very same place where he first stumbled upon the equipment that transported him to the Upside Down. This is where the nightmare first began. Henry's human side was terrified of this cave because that's when his life changed for the worse. From that very moment, he became a murderous machine that was forced to answer to a higher being, and in a way, that cave represented the very moment that Henry lost his humanity. Is the cave or Henry's memory a part of the Upside Down? If the cave system really is the same one from the first Shadow, then it's very likely connected to the Upside Down, and if that is indeed true, Max and Holly, even though they're stuck inside Henry's mind, actually be moving through memories that are anchored somewhere inside the Upside Down itself. That opens up the possibility that they could eventually cross paths with Dustin, Steve, Nancy, and Jonathan, who are also wandering around down there because, Henry's memories might be connected to the Upside Down. But that raises the big question: where exactly is Henry's mindscape hiding in the Upside Down? Will knows the Upside Down better than anyone. After everything he went through and his lingering connection to Vecna, you would think he would have noticed some trace of Henry's memories by now. The Upside Down is full of dark corners and blocked off spaces that nobody's explored, so Vecna could be keeping his mindscape tucked away in one of those hidden areas, maybe even somewhere beyond the giant, never-ending fleshy wall that the heroes and the military base inside the Upside Down haven't been able to break through yet. So far, one of the strangest mysteries in Stranger Things Season 5 is the massive fleshy wall sitting right in the middle of the Upside Down. When Hopper and Eleven stumble across it, we see a huge tentacle-y barrier that literally twitches when a soldier pees on it. A wounded Demogorgon even drags itself toward it like it recognizes the gross-looking thing. The wall looks almost alive and sentient, seemingly built from the same strange material as the other creatures in the Upside Down. At one point, Dr. K even takes samples from one of the gross pulsing sacs growing on its surface to test it out, but she finds absolutely nothing that would help us understand what remains on the other side. Later, when Dustin, Nancy, Steve, and Jonathan explore the Upside Down in search of Holly, they find the exact same wall, but on the opposite side of town from where Hop and Elle were in this dimension. Well, big thanks to Dustin and his brain power, as they realize that this isn't a wall at all, rather a giant circle that's hiding something inside its center. Naturally, everyone starts wondering what secret this thing is keeping, and Dustin is convinced that Vecna is hiding Holly behind it. If that's actually true, then Henry's memories and the cave system connected to them are all tucked away behind that wall. And if Vecna is working this hard to protect whatever's in there, then whatever lies at the center might be the key to ending him. In a way, it seems like Vecna created a wall around his mindscape to make it impenetrable. If this theory proves true, destroying this wall could help destroy him. Now that Will has figured out that he can tap into the hive mind and some of Vecna's memories, it's possible that he'll also figure out what happened to Henry as a child in that Nevada cave. If that cave in Nevada truly is connected to the Upside Down, maybe opening a gate inside that cave could lead them to the cave inside Vecna's mindscape where Max was hiding. What do you guys think about this theory? Is it a possibility, or are we simply shooting blind? Let us know about your thoughts and theories in the comment section down below, and if it sounds accurate enough, who knows, maybe we'll make a video about it. While you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content, but otherwise, for watching, stay safe out there and have a marvelous day.